Good Erev Shabbos. We know that there are multiple categories of brachos, two of which are Birchos Hamitzvos and Birchos Hanehen. In Birchos Hamitzvos, a bracha which we do prior to performing a mitzvah, such as lighting candles for Shabbos, such as putting on our tefillin, and then Birchos Hanenin, which are brachos that we recite prior to eating a food. There are numerous differences. One nafkamina, one specific difference practically is the question of, can I fulfill the bracha for you? Can I recite the bracha for you if I myself am not going to go ahead and do that mitzvah, or going to go ahead and eat that food? When it comes to Birchas HaMitzvah, to recite a bracha on your behalf for you doing a mitzvah, I'm absolutely allowed to do so because of the principle that we have, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh, that each Jew has an achrayus, his responsibility to every other Jew that they perform that mitzvah. Thus, I'm able to fulfill your obligation of reciting that mitzvah, even if you are going to fulfill that mitzvah and I have already fulfilled my mitzvah. However, when it comes to eating food, that is not the case. If I want to recite a Borei Pri Ha'etz on an apple, but I don't want to eat the apple, I just want to recite it, and you're going to go ahead and eat the apple, that would not be allowed. I'm only allowed to fulfill your obligation of eating food, of the bracha for food, when I myself am going to eat it. That's why it's okay when we have a Shabbos meal, we make one hamotzi and fulfill the obligation, because I am also going to go ahead and eat that challah. But if I'm not planning on eating any challah, and I'm just going to recite the bracha on your behalf, and you're going to eat it, that we generally say is not okay for a birchas hanehenin. However, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah does cite that there are some situations where that changes, where the bracha, Birchas HaNehenin, becomes the equivalent of the Birchas HaMitzvah. In that case, that I can recite the Birchas HaNehenin on your behalf, even if I'm not going to consume that item. The example provided by the Gemara is the case of Kiddush. If I have already fulfilled my mitzvah of Kiddush, and I don't intend to go ahead and drink the Kiddush, but I need to fulfill it for you, for whatever reason, then I'm allowed to go ahead and say the bracha of Kiddush, including the bracha of Borei Pri Hagafen, and not go ahead and drink as long as you drink. It is not necessary that I do. However, and the Rishonim extend that not only does that apply to Kiddush, but that applies to Havdalah as well. As long as someone drinks, then it's sufficient, even if I myself am not going to drink, because in that case, the Borei Pri Hagafen becomes some sort of quasi, not only Birchas Hanehenin, but Birchas HaMitzvah as well. Another case where this becomes very practical is under the chuppah, where the Misader Kedushin is typically the one who recites the Borei Pri Hagafen and the Birchas Eris and the bracha on the marriage itself under the chuppah, and then goes ahead and gives the chasan and the kala something to drink. But typically we don't see that the Misader Kedushin themselves drinks. How can they go ahead and do this? Borei Pri Hagafen is after all a Birchas Hanehenin. How can the Misader Kedushin recite it and not actually drink? So the answer that I heard from Rabbi Sabalovsky is that it must be that the Birchas Hanehenin of Borei Pri Hagafen, again, like Kiddush, like Havdalah, because becomes subsumed under the Birchas Ha'eris. And the reality is some don't accept that, because they say that there's a fundamental difference between the Birchas Erisin and the Havdalah and Kiddush, in that the Birchas Erisin is not actually, strictly speaking, necessary. One could have a very valid marriage without that bracha, as opposed to Kiddush or Havdalah. And therefore, those who don't want to accept that will either take a very small sip, or they'll spill some on their fingers and they'll go ahead and take a taste. But the general minhag is for the Misader Kedushin to simply give it to the Chassan and Kala and not drink themselves, and relying on this same idea that in such cases where the Borei Pri Hagafen is connected intrinsically to the Birchas HaMitzvah, Kiddush, Havdalah, Birchas HaEris, and then it is uplifted and obtains the status of a Birchas HaMitzvah. Have a fantastic Shabbos.